Twilight descended upon the Manhattan skyline, casting long shadows across the gleaming glass towers that dominated the cityscape. The prestigious Horizon Gallery buzzed with the city's elite, their murmurs and champagne flutes creating a symphony of wealth and ambition. Among them, Yara Delacroix moved with purpose, her emerald gown catching the light as she navigated through the crowd. As the curator of the gallery's most controversial exhibition, Ancestral Shadows, The Forgotten Tribes, Yara had faced both praise and criticism for bringing indigenous artifacts into the mainstream spotlight. At 32, she'd built her reputation on challenging the art world's gatekeepers, her mixed heritage of Creole and Native American ancestry fueling her passion for cultural preservation. "Quite the turnout," remarked her assistant Mason, appearing at her side with a tablet displaying the evening's sales figures. "The board members are ecstatic." Yara nodded, her dark eyes scanning the room. And yet none of them would touch these pieces 6 months ago. Funny how profit changes perspective. She paused before a striking painting, a massive canvas depicting a wolf transforming into a man beneath a blood moon. The artist had captured the agony and ecstasy of the metamorphosis, muscles and bones seemingly in motion across the static medium. "Your centerpiece is attracting significant attention," Mason observed, "especially from that gentleman who hasn't moved for 20 minutes. Yara followed Mason's gaze to a tall figure standing alone before the painting. Even from behind, his presence commanded attention. Broad shoulders beneath an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. Dark hair with a single silver streak tied back neatly. Power emanated from his stillness. "I should introduce myself," Yara murmured, more to herself than Mason. As she approached, the stranger spoke without turning. The artist understood the duality of existence, the beast and the man, eternally bound. His voice carried the warmth of amber and smoke, with an accent she couldn't quite place. "Most people see only the horror of transformation," Yara replied, coming to stand beside him. "Few recognize the liberation." He turned then, and Yara felt a jolt of recognition, though she'd never seen his face before. Sharp cheekbones, framed eyes the color of burnished gold, unnatural yet mesmerizing. A scar traced his jawline, disrupting the perfection of his features with a story of violence. "Tassun Ravenwolf," he introduced himself, extending a hand adorned with a single ring, an ancient-looking band of twisted silver embedded with a black stone. "Yara Delacroix," she replied, accepting his handshake. His palm felt unnaturally warm against hers, the contact sending a strange current up her arm. "The curator with a mission," he acknowledged with the barest hint of a smile. "Your work has not gone unnoticed, Ms. Delacroix." "For better or worse," she said, withdrawing her hand. "You seem particularly drawn to this piece. It speaks to me." His gaze returned to the painting. "My family has long collected works depicting our folklore. Are you of native descent?" Yara inquired, noting the subtle references in his attire, the silver and turquoise cufflinks, the geometric patterns subtly woven into his tie. "My lineage is complicated," Tassun replied, a shadow passing across his features. "Much like yours, I imagine." Before Yara could question how he knew of her background, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. A woman had collapsed, guests gathering in concerned circles as security rushed forward. "Excuse me," Yara said, stepping away, duty calling. "We will speak again, Yara Delacroix," Tassun stated with certainty. Not a request, but a promise. Hours later, after the medical emergency had been handled and the gallery had emptied, Yara found herself alone among the artifacts. The exhibition had been a success, but something about Tassun Ravenwolf lingered in her thoughts. His card sat on her desk, heavy stock paper with only his name, and a phone number embossed in silver. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The wolf painting speaks a truth few understand. Perhaps you do. Dinner tomorrow? TR." Yara stared at the message, wondering how he'd obtained her private number. Curiosity warred with caution, eventually winning out as she typed her reply. 7 p.m. You choose the place. She didn't notice the shadow that passed by the gallery window, nor the gleam of amber eyes watching her from the darkness. The following evening found Yara ascending to the 67th floor of a sleek skyscraper that housed Werewolf Industries, a conglomerate she'd discovered specialized in everything from real estate to biotech. The private elevator opened directly into a penthouse restaurant that was conspicuously empty of other patrons. I took the liberty of reserving the entire establishment, Tassin explained, appearing from a hidden doorway. He'd exchanged his formal suit for dark slacks and a burgundy shirt that seemed to shift colors in the ambient lighting. I find crowds distracting. Impressive, Yara remarked, taking in the panoramic view of the city below. Though slightly presumptuous, I might have preferred somewhere more public for a first date. Is that what this is? Tassoon's mouth curved into a genuine smile, transforming his severe features. I thought it was a cultural exchange between two people interested in ancient traditions. He guided her to a table set with artifacts that didn't belong in a dining setting. A ceremonial bowl, carved wooden figures, and what appeared to be a ritualistic dagger. These aren't replicas, Yara observed, her professional eye recognizing their authenticity immediately. These belong in a museum. They belong to my family, Tassoon corrected gently. Passed down through generations. Tonight they serve as conversation pieces. Throughout dinner, Tassin revealed fragments of his history, his company's rise from a small family business to a global enterprise, his solitary upbringing in the wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, his recent return to New York after years abroad. Yet for every detail he shared, Yara sensed dozens held back. You mentioned folklore yesterday, Yara prompted after their main course. The wolf transformation piece resonated with you. Tassoon's expression grew serious. My people believe that certain souls are born with dual natures, human and beast intertwined. The Europeans called us werewolves, but the reality is more nuanced. You speak as if it's more than myth, Yara observed. All myths contain truths, Ms. Delacroix. His eyes seemed to flare momentarily brighter. Your own grandmother, Misou, believed this, did she not? Yara froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips. How do you know about my grandmother? Your exhibition catalog mentioned her influence on your work, Tassoon replied smoothly. I merely did my research. But Yara had written no such detail in the catalog. Her grandmother's name, her real name, not the Americanized version she'd used publicly, had been kept private, a sacred memory. Before she could press further, the building trembled slightly, lights flickering. Tassin rose instantly, his posture alert. A minor earthquake, he stated, though his expression betrayed concern. Nothing to worry about. His phone buzzed, and after reading the message, his demeanor shifted entirely. I apologize, but we must cut this short. My driver will take you home. Is everything all right? Yara asked, rising as well. Family business, Tassoon replied tersely. Unavoidable. But I'd like to see you again soon. Despite her better judgment, Yara agreed. As she departed in his private elevator, she caught a glimpse of Tassoon speaking urgently into his phone, his free hand clenched around the ritualistic dagger from their table, knuckles white with tension. In the luxury car sent to return her home, Yara found a small wooden box on the seat. Inside lay a pendant, a silver wolf with amber eyes, identical to the one her grandmother had worn until her death 3 years ago. A pendant that had been buried with her. Beneath it, a note, written in flowing script. Some legacies call to us across time and space. Yours is awakening, Yara. Outside her apartment building, as she clutched the impossible pendant, Yara noticed a figure watching from across the street. A woman with silver hair despite her young face, eyes reflecting the streetlights like a predator's. When Yara blinked, the woman was gone, leaving only the echo of a wolf's distant howl carried on the wind. Destiny had found her doorstep, wearing the face of her past and promising a future she could never have imagined. Memories haunted Yara's dreams that night, fragments of stories her grandmother Misu had whispered during childhood thunderstorms. Tales of the skinwalkers, shape-shifting guardians who protected their tribe from ancient evils. Stories dismissed as superstition by her academically minded parents, but treasured secretly in Yara's heart. Morning light filtered through her loft windows as she examined the silver wolf pendant, identical to her grandmother's in every detail. From the tiny scar across its muzzle to the unusual patterning of the amber eyes, impossible, yet tangible in her palm. Her phone rang, disrupting her thoughts. The gallery director, Francis Winthrop, sounded uncharacteristically distressed. "Yara, dear, we have a situation. The wolf transformation painting has been stolen." "What? When?" Yara clutched the pendant tighter. "Sometime after midnight. Security systems were disabled, professionally, according to police. Nothing else was touched." Yara's mind raced to Tassin's abrupt departure the previous evening. "I'll be right there." At the gallery, police technicians dusted for fingerprints while Francis hovered nervously. "The insurance will cover the financial loss, but the publicity, this was our centerpiece." "Was there any footage before the cameras went out?" Yara asked, examining the empty wall space. "Just this." Francis showed her a tablet displaying grainy security footage. A figure in black, face obscured, placed something on the floor before the painting, a small object that glinted silver in the low light. Then the feed cut to static. "I need to see if that object is still there," Yara insisted, ducking under the police tape despite protests. In the exact spot where the figure had stood, she found a small silver coin embedded, with ancient symbols, the same symbols that decorated the hilt of the ritualistic dagger Tassin had displayed during their dinner. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Not theft, protection. Meet me at Bryant Park. Noon, TR." The spring air carried a crisp edge as Yara approached the designated meeting spot, her professional ethics warring with burning curiosity. Tassin waited beneath a blooming cherry tree, his business attire exchanged for casual elegance, dark jeans and a gray cashmere sweater that softened his imposing presence. "You stole the painting," Yara accused without preamble. "I secured it," Tassin corrected, unperturbed by her anger. "There's a difference." "Not to the police or my reputation," she retorted. Tassin gestured to a private corner of the park where 2 chairs had been arranged. "Please, sit. What I'm about to tell you requires context." Against her better judgment, Yara complied. Tassin remained standing, his gaze sweeping the park with predatory awareness before settling back on her. "The artist who created that painting, Elias Moonchild, was my mother's brother," Tassin began. "He painted what he saw, not what he imagined." "You're claiming werewolves are real," Yara stated flatly. "Skinwalkers," Tassin corrected. "Your grandmother's people called us skinwalkers." A chill ran down Yara's spine. "How do you know about my grandmother?" "Because she was one of us," Tassin replied simply. "As was my mother. As am I." He extended his hand, revealing the ring with the black stone. "This onyx belongs to a set of 12, given to the Alpha families centuries ago. Your grandmother wore one identical to it, though hers was lost when she died." "This is insane," Yara whispered, yet the pendant in her pocket seemed to warm against her thigh. 3 nights ago, someone broke into my family's ancestral vault and stole ancient artifacts, including ritual texts describing our transformation. The same night, your exhibition opened, featuring a painting that reveals our true nature." Tassin's voice remained calm, but urgency threaded through his words. This is not coincidence, Yara. Someone is systematically exposing our kind, and they've connected you to it. Why would anyone care about exposing myths? Yara challenged. Tasun's eyes flickered, gold briefly overtaking the iris entirely. Because our DNA holds secrets. Pharmaceutical companies would kill for longevity, accelerated healing, immunity to most diseases. My company's biotech division was founded to protect these secrets, not exploit them. A college-aged couple walked past, laughing, momentarily pausing Tassin's revelations. When they passed, his voice lowered further. Your grandmother left the pack decades ago, choosing a human life for safety. She kept you ignorant of your heritage to protect you. His expression softened with something like compassion. But your blood remembers, Yara. Have you never wondered why you heal so quickly? Why your senses are so acute? Why the moon pulls at your consciousness? Yara's mind raced through unexplainable moments from her life. The night vision that let her drive without headlights, her uncanny ability to sense emotions, the restlessness that overcame her during full moons. The pendant, she whispered, pulling it from her pocket. This was buried with my grandmother. No, Tasun corrected gently. A replica was buried. This is the original, removed before her funeral by our elders. It was meant to be returned to you when you came of age. By pack tradition, but your parents moved away, breaking contact. Why give it to me now? Because you're in danger, Tasun stated bluntly. Whoever stole our artifacts knows about your connection to our world. The painting was merely the beginning. As if summoned by his warning, Yara's phone rang. The gallery again. Mason's voice trembled with shock. Yara, someone broke into your office. They left something terrible. I'll be right there, she promised, rising shakily. I'm coming with you, Tasun declared, not a request. At the gallery, police once again crowded the space. Mason met them at the entrance, his face pale. They didn't take anything, just left that. Yara's office door stood ajar. On her desk, artfully arranged in a grotesque display, lay a taxidermied wolf's head, eyes replaced with amber stones identical to those in her pendant. A silver dagger, ceremonial and ancient, protruded from its skull. A note written in what appeared to be blood red. Blood remembers what minds forget. Yara swayed, overcome by nausea. Tasun's arm steadied her, his body radiating unnatural heat. This is a death threat, he murmured for her ears alone. Not just to you, but to what you represent. And what exactly do I represent? Yara demanded weakly. Hope, Tasun replied cryptically. The future of our kind depends on bloodlines like yours. Detective Reyes, a stern-faced woman with calculating eyes, approached them. Ms. Delacroix, we need your statement. And you are? Tassin Ravenwolf, a friend, he replied smoothly, producing a business card. My security team is at your disposal, Detective. Convenient that you're here so quickly after the discovery, Reyes observed, suspicion evident. I was with Ms. Delacroix when she received the call, Tasun explained. Given the theft yesterday, I offered my company's additional security services. The detective's gaze lingered on Tasun's ring before returning to Yara. Do you have any enemies, Ms. Delacroix? Anyone who might take issue with your exhibition? Not like this, Yara answered honestly. After providing her statement, Yara was advised not to return to her apartment alone. We can arrange a protective detail, Reyes offered. That won't be necessary, Tasun interjected. My estate has comprehensive security. Ms. Delacroix will be safer there until this is resolved. I haven't agreed to that, Yara protested. Tasun's eyes met hers, intense and unnervingly sincere. Please, Yara. What's happening is bigger than you realize. Against all rational judgment, Yara found herself in Tassin's private car an hour later, heading north out of the city toward Westchester County. The wolf pendant seemed to pulse against her skin beneath her blouse, a reminder of the impossible tale he'd spun. "Why should I believe any of this?" she finally asked, as urban landscapes gave way to forested estates. Tassoon was silent for a long moment, then slowly removed his suit jacket. Because seeing is believing. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a muscular forearm marked with a geometric tattoo that seemed to shift under the skin. Meeting her gaze, he dragged his own fingernails, suddenly longer, sharper, across his arm, drawing blood. Yara gasped, instinctively reaching to stop him, but froze as the wound began closing before her eyes, the torn flesh knitting together in seconds until only drying blood remained on unblemished skin. "This is merely the surface of what we are," Tassoon said quietly. "The full transformation is considerably more dramatic." "My grandmother," Yara whispered. "Could she?" "Yes," Tassoon confirmed, though she surrendered that part of herself when she left the pack. The ability diminishes without practice and community. The car turned through imposing iron gates emblazoned with a stylized wolf's head, the Raven Wolf corporate logo, now carrying new significance. Beyond stretched a sprawling estate, centered around a modern mansion of glass and stone that somehow evoked both cutting-edge architecture and ancient stability. As they approached the main entrance, Yara noticed figures patrolling the perimeter, men and women moving with the same predatory grace Tassoon possessed. "My pack," he explained, following her gaze. "Family by blood and choice." Inside, the mansion revealed itself as both luxury residence and fortress. Security monitors displayed every angle of the grounds, while priceless art and artifacts mingled with ultra-modern technology. A striking woman with platinum hair, the same woman Yara had glimpsed outside her apartment, met them in the grand foyer. "Luna," Tassoon greeted her. "This is Yara Delacroix." "Misu's granddaughter," Luna acknowledged, her accent vaguely Eastern, European. The resemblance is remarkable. Her assessing gaze held something beyond curiosity, recognition and wariness intertwined. "Prepare the east wing for our guest," Tassoon instructed. "And call the council. We need an emergency session." Luna's eyebrows rose. "You're involving her already? Avant won't approve." "Avant isn't Alpha," Tassoon replied with quiet authority. "I am." The statement hung in the air, laden with unspoken politics. Luna nodded curtly and departed, casting a final evaluating glance at Yara. "Who's Avant?" Yara asked, as Tassoon led her deeper into the house. "My father's brother," Tassoon explained. "He believes our kind should remain isolated from humans entirely. When my father died, Avant expected to assume leadership." "But you became Alpha instead," Yara surmised. "By birthright and trial," Tassoon confirmed, his hand unconsciously rising to the scar along his jawline. "Avant has never fully accepted my vision for our future." They reached a magnificent library where floor-to-ceiling shelves housed ancient tomes alongside modern volumes. A large table dominated the center, covered with maps and documents. "This is where we'll begin your education," Tassoon stated, retrieving an ornate wooden box from a hidden safe behind a rotating bookshelf. "I haven't agreed to any education," Yara protested. "I came here for safety and answers, not induction into some secret society." "The two are inseparable now," Tassoon replied, opening the box to reveal an ancient leather-bound journal. "This belonged to your grandmother. She left it in our keeping before departing, with instructions that it should be given to her granddaughter if the bloodline ever manifested again." He placed the journal on the table before her. The cover was worn, adorned with the same symbol as her pendant. When Yara hesitantly touched it, a jolt of recognition shot through her, though she'd never seen it before. "How will I know if I'm manifesting?" she asked, the question feeling surreal on her lips. "The first sign is already appearing," Tasun observed, nodding toward her hands. Yara looked down to find her fingernails elongating slightly, the beds darkening. With a gasp of shock, she pulled her hands back, and the transformation receded. The pendant awakens dormant genes, Tasun explained. Your grandmother's journal will help you understand what's happening. Outside, dusk had fallen, and through the massive windows, Yara could see the moon rising, nearly full, its pull already tugging at something primal within her. Tonight, Tasun said, following her gaze, you'll witness what we truly are. And tomorrow, you'll begin to understand why someone wants both our worlds destroyed. A howl echoed across the grounds, answered by another, then several more, forming an eerie chorus that sent shivers down Yara's spine. Beneath that fear lurked something else, something new, yet anciently familiar, a longing to answer that call with her own voice. Conflict surged through her as she clutched her grandmother's journal. The rational, human part of her mind insisted. This was madness. Yet something deeper, something awakening in her blood, recognized a truth her conscious mind still resisted. Luna appeared at the doorway, her posture tense. They're here, she announced, earlier than expected. Who? Yara asked, but the answer came in the form of alarms suddenly blaring throughout the mansion. Tasun's expression hardened as security. Monitors flashed with movement. Dark figures scaling the perimeter walls, bypassing sophisticated defenses with insider knowledge. The hunt has begun, he growled, his voice deepening as his eyes flared molten gold. And we are the prey. Knowledge rushed upon Yara like an approaching storm, both unwelcome and inevitable. Chaos erupted throughout the mansion as security protocols activated. Steel shutters descended over windows, while hidden panels in the walls revealed weapons caches, both modern firearms and ancient-looking bladed weapons. What's happening? Yara demanded as Tasun checked a tablet displaying security camera feeds. Hunters, he replied grimly. Humans who know what we are, and have dedicated themselves to eradicating our kind. Luna entered swiftly, now dressed in tactical gear, a curved knife strapped to her thigh. Perimeter breached in 3 locations. They're using wolfsbane grenades to disorient the outer guards. Evacuate the vulnerable to the tunnels, Tasun ordered, his voice carrying a resonance that hadn't been there before. Defenders at position 2. What about her? Luna asked, nodding toward Yara. She stays with me, Tasun decided, retrieving an ornate wooden box from beneath the library table. She's why they're here. I don't understand, Yara protested as Luna departed. Why would these hunters care about me? Tasun opened the box, revealing a gleaming silver dagger with amber embedded in the hilt, twin to the one impaling the wolf's head left in her office. Because you are Misu's heir, he explained, checking the blade's edge with his thumb, careful not to cut himself. Your grandmother was more than just a skinwalker, Yara. She was a luminary, a rare bloodline that can transform at will, regardless of the moon's phase. He offered her the dagger, hilt first. Most of us are bound to lunar cycles, our transformations forced and painful during the full moon. Luminaries control their gift completely, shifting between forms as easily as changing clothes. Yara hesitated before taking the weapon. You think I inherited this ability? The hunters certainly believe so, Tasun replied, moving toward a bookshelf that concealed a hidden door. Luminaries have been hunted to near extinction. As far as we know, you may be the last with the potential. The hidden door revealed a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Tasun took a modern tactical flashlight from his pocket, illuminating stone steps worn by centuries of use. This passage leads to an underground complex beneath the estate, he explained as they descended. Built during Prohibition, expanded during the Cold War, and retrofitted recently with state-of-the-art security. As they moved deeper underground, the sounds of conflict above became muffled. Yara clutched the dagger, its weight unfamiliar, yet somehow right in her hand. How did they find me? She asked. If I didn't even know what I was? That's the question, Tasun answered, his tone grim. Someone betrayed us. Someone who knew about your grandmother's pendant being returned to you. The staircase opened into a large chamber carved from bedrock, modernized with technology that seemed out of place against the ancient stone. Monitors displayed security feeds from the mansion above, where dark figures in tactical gear swept through corridors with military precision. They're well equipped, Yara observed, watching the hunters methodically searching room by room. Hunters have evolved with us, Tasun explained, activating a complex console. What began as superstitious villagers with pitchforks has become a paramilitary organization with substantial funding and political connections. He pressed his palm to a biometric scanner, causing a section of wall to slide open, revealing an even more secure chamber beyond. The council vault, he explained, leading her inside. Our most sacred artifacts and records are kept here. The circular room contained display cases housing ancient texts, ceremonial objects, and what appeared to be scientific equipment. At the center stood a pedestal supporting a glass case containing a single item, a collar-like necklace made of interlinked silver segments, each embedded with amber stones similar to her pendant. The Alpha Circlet, Tasun said reverently, passed down through 27 generations of pack leaders. Legend claims it was forged from the tears of the first skinwalker, crystallized by moonlight. It's beautiful, Yara murmured, drawn to the artifact despite herself. And deadly in the wrong hands, Tasun added. The amber contains compounds that can trigger or suppress our transformations. Our scientists have spent decades studying it, hoping to develop treatments for those who cannot control their shifts. A muffled explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Tasun's expression darkened as he checked the security feeds. They've breached the eastern wing, he reported. We don't have much time. He approached a cabinet containing vials of amber liquid. This serum is derived from the circlet's stones. It can temporarily suppress transformation, but it can also accelerate it in those with dormant abilities. Understanding dawned. You want to force my transformation? I want to give you the means to defend yourself, Tasun corrected, selecting a vial. If you are truly a luminary, this will awaken your abilities fully. If not, he hesitated. It could be dangerous. How dangerous? Yara asked, eyeing the vial warily. Potentially fatal, he admitted. The serum affects our DNA directly. Without the luminary gene sequence, your body might reject the changes violently. Another explosion, closer this time. The security feeds showed hunters advancing methodically toward their location, led by a tall figure whose face remained obscured by a tactical mask. We're running out of options, Tasun urged. My pack is fighting, but they're using weapons, designed specifically against our kind. Yara's mind raced, weighing impossibilities against the very real danger approaching. If I am what you say, if this works, what happens then? You'd gain conscious control over your transformation, Tasun explained. The ability to shift forms at will, to access the strength, speed, and senses of the wolf while maintaining human consciousness. Yara looked down at the pendant against her chest, remembering her grandmother's stories. Tales she'd assumed were merely metaphorical, meant to teach courage and connection to nature. My grandmother chose to give up this power, she noted. Why would she abandon something so valuable? Pain flickered across Tasun's features. Because she fell in love with a human who could never understand our world, and because she feared what the council might do with a luminary child. Before Yara could question him further, the vault door slid open. Luna stumbled in, blood streaming from a wound in her shoulder. They knew exactly where to find us, she gasped. The tunnels are compromised. Avant is leading them directly to us. Avant? Tasun's expression hardened into cold fury. My own uncle betrays the pack? For power, Luna confirmed, pressing a hand to her wound. He's made a deal with the hunters. They eliminate you and help him secure the alpha position in exchange for research access to our genetics. Tasun's eyes flared gold, his features sharpening as rage pushed him toward transformation. With visible effort, he controlled himself, turning to Yara. "We've run out of time for debate," he stated. "The hunters will show no mercy. You must choose now, embrace your heritage, or remain vulnerable." Another explosion rocked the vault, closer still. The security feeds went dark one by one. "How do I know this isn't some elaborate manipulation?" Yara challenged, though her body trembled with adrenaline and something deeper, an ancient instinct awakening. "You don't," Tasun acknowledged, "but ask yourself why your grandmother kept her pendant, why she documented everything in a journal. Meant for you. Why the wolf always called to your soul even when you didn't understand what it meant." He offered the vial again. "Your blood remembers what your mind forgot, Yara. Trust it now." The vault door shuddered under impact, once, twice. Luna positioned herself defensively, drawing her curved knife. With shaking hands, Yara accepted. The vial. "What do I do?" "Drink it all," Tasun instructed. "The transformation will be painful the first time, but I'll guide you through it." As the vault door began to buckle under sustained assault, Yara uncapped the vial and swallowed its contents in one desperate gulp. The liquid burned like fire down her throat, spreading molten heat through her veins. Pain exploded through her body, bones shifting, muscles stretching, nerves rewiring themselves in patterns nature never intended for humans. She fell to her knees, a scream tearing from her throat that morphed midway into something wilder, more primal. Through the haze of agony, she heard Tasun's voice, steady and commanding. "Don't fight it, Yara. Let your body remember what your ancestors knew. The wolf is not separate from you. It is you, unleashed." Her vision blurred, then sharpened, dramatically as colors shifted, blues and greens intensifying while reds deepened. Scents assaulted her. Blood, fear, the acrid tang of explosives, and underneath it all, the rich earthiness of the forest above. The vault door finally gave way with a screech of torn metal. Hunters poured in, led by a distinguished older man whose features echoed Tasun's. Avant, presumably. Beside him stood the masked figure, who removed his tactical helmet to reveal a face Yara recognized with shock, despite her altered perceptions. "Mason," she gasped, her voice distorted by a partially transformed throat. Her assistant's familiar face was cold, calculating, nothing like the supportive colleague she'd trusted for years. "Hello, Yara," Mason greeted her calmly. "I see Tasun has already begun your indoctrination. Unfortunate, but not unexpected." "You were working with the hunters all along," Yara realized, struggling to speak through lengthening canines. "I am a hunter," Mason corrected. "Specifically, a sentinel. We infiltrate potential skinwalker circles, identifying threats before they manifest." He gestured toward her partially transformed state. "Like you." Avant stepped forward, his bearing aristocratic despite the tactical gear. "Nephew, this rebellion has gone far enough. Surrender the luminary and the circlet, and I may allow some of your loyalists to live." Tasun positioned himself between the intruders and Yara, whose transformation was accelerating, skin rippling with dark fur, spine elongating as her body fought to reconcile human and wolf forms. "You betray not just me, uncle, but everything our ancestors built," Tasun growled, his own features sharpening, fingers extending into claws. "For what? To be a puppet king to hunters who will dissect you once your usefulness ends?" Luna lunged suddenly at one of the hunters, her movements blindingly fast. She managed to incapacitate two before a specialized dart struck her shoulder. She dropped, paralyzed but conscious, eyes wide with rage. "Aconite derivative," Mason explained clinically, "paralyzes skinwalkers without killing them. We've refined our methods over centuries." Yara's transformation intensified with her fear, bones cracking audibly as they realigned. The pain was excruciating, yet beneath it surged a wild power unlike anything she'd experienced, ancient wisdom flooding her altered consciousness. "The transformation is unstable," Mason observed. "First shifts usually are. Without proper guidance, she'll lose her human consciousness entirely." "Which makes capture easier," Avant noted with cold practicality. Tassoon backed toward Yara, his voice dropping to a register only her enhanced hearing could detect. "The serum is working faster than expected. Your luminary blood is strong. When I engage them, take the circlet and run. Follow your instincts. To the eastern passage. Luna's mate will be waiting." Before Yara could respond, Tassoon launched himself at the hunters with inhuman speed. His partial transformation gave him claws and strength while maintaining human mobility, a tactical choice rather than a full shift. In the chaos that erupted, Yara forced her changing body toward the pedestal containing the Alpha Circlet. Her vision pulsed between human perception and something wilder. Ultraviolet patterns visible on surfaces, heartbeats visible as heat signatures through flesh. Through determination and instinct, she managed to grasp the circlet just as Mason noticed her intent. He fired a dart that grazed her shoulder, delivering a partial dose of the paralytic compound. Her left arm went numb immediately, but the luminary blood in her veins burned through the toxin faster than normal skinwalkers could. Clutching the circlet to her chest with her functioning arm, Yara backed toward the eastern wall where Tassin had indicated an escape route. "Your grandmother made the same choice," Mason called to her, reloading his weapon. "Chose humanity over monstrosity. That's why she left the pack, why she hid you from this world." "You knew my grandmother?" Yara managed to ask through transformed vocal cords. "I protected her," Mason replied, his expression softening momentarily. "After she chose to leave this life behind. She wanted better for you, Yara." Doubt flashed through her mind, but the pendant against her skin pulsed warmly, as if contradicting his words. Her grandmother's journal, containing her true thoughts, not Mason's interpretation, still waited to be read. A hidden doorway in the eastern wall slid open as Yara approached it, triggered by proximity sensors. Beyond, a narrow tunnel led into darkness. Tassoon continued fighting, holding off multiple attackers despite wounds from their specialized weapons. His eyes met Yara's across the chamber, a silent command to run. As she hesitated, torn between escape and loyalty, Avant circled behind his distracted nephew. The elder man raised a silver blade etched with ancient symbols, poised to deliver a killing blow. "Tassoon! Behind you!" Yara screamed, her voice a hybrid of human speech and wolf's howl. Tassoon spun, narrowly avoiding his uncle's strike, but Mason used the distraction to fire another dart, this one finding its mark in Tassin's throat. The Alpha dropped to his knees, fighting the paralytic with visible effort. "Go!" he commanded Yara, the word barely recognizable through his partially transformed jaw. Survival instinct finally overcame hesitation. Yara plunged into the tunnel, her partially transformed body adapting to the darkness with enhanced vision. Behind her, she heard Avant's voice, cold with triumph. "Bring them both. The girl is worth more alive than dead. For now." Yara ran, her transformed limbs carrying her faster than human legs ever could, the circlet clutched against her chest. The tunnel sloped upward, eventually emerging in a dense forest far from the mansion. A tall man with copper skin and jet black hair waited beside a rugged jeep, his posture alert. He nodded at her approach, seemingly unsurprised by her half-transformed appearance. "I am Coda, Luna's mate," he introduced himself. "We must move quickly." "Tassoon and Luna are captured," Yara gasped, struggling to form words with a mouth, caught between human and wolf forms. "Others escaped," Coda assured her, helping her into the vehicle. "The pack survives, but our future depends on protecting you and the circlet now." As they drove deeper into the wilderness, Yara focused on controlling her breathing, finding that the transformation receded slightly with each deliberate breath. By concentrating on her human thoughts, she managed to reverse some of the physical changes, claws retracting, spine realigning, though her senses remained supernaturally enhanced. "You're controlling the shift," Koda observed with undisguised awe. "A true luminary, just as Misu was." "My grandmother," Yara managed through more human lips. "Mason claimed he protected her, that she left the pack willingly." Koda's expression darkened. "Half-truths are more dangerous than lies. Misu left to protect you, yes, but not from the pack. From Avant and his faction, who sought to use luminary children for experiments." He navigated the jeep along nearly invisible forest. Tracks. Mason was assigned to watch her, not protect her. Hunters monitor potential skinwalkers, waiting for abilities to manifest before eliminating threats. "But they want me alive," Yara noted, clutching the circlet tighter. "Because luminaries are rare enough to be valuable research subjects," Koda explained grimly, "and because Avant needs a luminary's blood to perform the ritual that would make him a true alpha." The implications chilled Yara despite her elevated body temperature. "We need to rescue Tasun and Luna. First, we need to secure you and—" "The circlet," Koda countered, turning onto a nearly invisible side path. "There's a safe house where pack survivors are gathering. From there we can plan." The safe house proved to be a collection of modernized cabins surrounding a central lodge, hidden deep within a nature preserve owned by Werewolf Industries under a subsidiary name. As they arrived, Yara counted at least 20 skinwalkers, in various states of alertness, some fully human in appearance, others showing subtle signs of their dual nature. Inside the main lodge, a war council was already in progress. At their entrance, all eyes turned to Yara, especially to the circlet she carried. She protected the Alpha legacy, Koda announced, and a murmur of approval swept through the gathered skinwalkers. An elderly woman approached, her silver hair worn in a traditional braid, her movements spry despite her apparent age. "Misu's grandchild," she declared, studying Yara's face. "The blood speaks through generations." "This is Elder Sora," Koda introduced. "She knew your grandmother from childhood." "You have questions," Sora stated, not asking. "About your grandmother, about yourself, about this war you've been thrust into. Come." She led Yara to a private room where a fire burned in a stone hearth. Taking the Alpha circlet with reverent hands, Sora placed it in a hidden safe before returning to sit opposite Yara. "Mason said my grandmother chose humanity over this life," Yara began, unsure how to phrase her confusion. "Misu chose survival," Sora corrected. 30 years ago, our pack was torn by the same conflict that erupts now. Avant believed luminaries should be studied, their powers harnessed through selective breeding and scientific experimentation. Your grandfather, Tasun's father, opposed this, believing skinwalkers should integrate cautiously with human society, using our gifts to protect both worlds. The elder's eyes reflected the firelight as she continued. When Misu discovered she was carrying a child who might inherit luminary blood, she fled to protect you and your mother from becoming test subjects. Your grandfather helped her escape, staying behind to lead the pack, a decision that eventually cost him his life. Tasun said Avant expected to become Alpha when his brother died, Yara recalled. By pack tradition, leadership passes through bloodlines, but an Alpha must also prove worthy through trials of strength and wisdom, Sora explained. Tasun was young when his father was killed, but he defeated Avant in ritual combat, claiming his birthright. She leaned forward, her gaze intense. Avant never accepted this outcome. For years, he has cultivated allies among traditionalists who fear integration with humans, while secretly negotiating with hunters who promised him power. In exchange for access to our biology, Yara absorbed this information, connecting pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known existed days earlier. The pendant, the painting, my exhibition. It wasn't coincidence, No, Sora confirmed. Avant learned of Tassoon's plan to reconnect with Misu's lineage, your grandmother's dying wish. He saw an opportunity to eliminate both threats to his ambition with one strategic move. By exposing me to hunters, Yara realized, he manufactured a crisis that would allow him to challenge Tassoon's leadership while capturing a luminary for his experiments. Sora nodded approvingly at her quick understanding. You have your grandmother's mind as well as her blood. A commotion outside interrupted their conversation. Koda appeared at the doorway, his expression urgent. They're moving Tassoon and Luna to a hunter facility upstate, he reported. Our inside source just confirmed. How many survived the mansion attack? Sora asked. 17 confirmed, possibly more in hiding, Koda answered. Enough for a rescue operation, but we need the luminary. All eyes turned to Yara, expectations heavy in their gaze. You want me to use abilities I barely understand to help rescue people I just met? She summarized, the absurdity of her situation, suddenly overwhelming. We want you to embrace who you truly are, Sora corrected gently. The choice Misu made was right for her time. Your choice must be right for yours. She retrieved something from a wooden chest, Misu's journal, salvaged, from the mansion before its fall. Read your grandmother's words, Sora advised, then decide. Through the night, Yara immersed herself in her grandmother's journey, pages filled with struggle, wisdom, and eventually, regret for the world she'd left behind. The final entry, dated just weeks before her death, contained a message clearly meant for Yara. To my desert flower who blooms in moonlight, if you read these words, the choice I feared has found you. Know that I left not because our nature is something to reject, but because in my time, there was no middle path between worlds. I pray that in your day, such a path exists. Trust not those who would divide your heart from your instincts. The Yagake wolf is not separate from the woman. Together they create something magnificent. Whatever you choose wholeness. Dawn found Yara outside the cabin, practicing the transformation techniques described in the journal. Under Sora's guidance, she learned to control the shift. First fingers, then limbs, finally her entire form. By midday, she could move between human and wolf shapes with increasing fluidity, though the process remained painful. Remarkable, Sora observed, after Yara completed her third full transformation. Misu took months to achieve such control. Yara, returning to human form wrapped in a blanket provided for the transition, felt strangely complete despite her exhaustion. It's as if my body always knew how to do this, but my mind created barriers. That is the luminary gift, Sora confirmed. The perfect harmony of dual natures. Koda approached with maps and tactical equipment. The rescue team is ready when you are. Determination solidified within Yara as she studied the facility's layout where Tassoon and Luna were being held. The woman who had entered the gallery opening days ago seemed to belong to another lifetime, a partial version of herself who had never understood the emptiness she'd carried. I'm ready, she declared, straightening her shoulders. Let's bring our alpha home. Darkness cloaked the Hunter Research Facility, a compound of low, utilitarian buildings surrounded by electrified fencing and motion sensors, disguised as a pharmaceutical testing center. From their observation point in the densely wooded hills overlooking the site, Yara studied the patrol patterns of armed guards. 3 rotating teams, she noted, her enhanced vision tracking heat signatures through walls. Heaviest security around the northeast building. That's where they'll keep high-value assets, Koda confirmed, adjusting specialized goggles that approximated skinwalker vision. Tassoon and Luna are likely there, possibly separated. Their rescue team consisted of 8 skinwalkers, the most combat-experienced survivors from the mansion attack. All wore specialized gear designed to protect vulnerable areas during transformation while carrying weapons that remained usable in either form. Remember, Sora instructed from their mobile command center, her voice coming through secure earpieces. Hunters use silver-infused ammunition and aconite compounds. Even grazing wounds can be debilitating. Prioritize stealth over confrontation. Yara touched the pendant at her throat, drawing strength from the connection to her grandmother's legacy. The Alpha Circlet remained secured at their hidden base, too valuable to risk in the operation. The extraction plan depends on your ability to locate them quickly, Coda reminded Yara. A luminary can sense pack bonds, especially with an alpha. I've never tried that, she admitted. Focus on Tassin's energy, Sora suggested through the comm. You've shared blood connection through the serum he gave you. That creates a tracking path. Yara closed her eyes, concentrating on the memory of Tassoon's presence. His voice, his scent, the resonant authority in his commands. Something stirred within her consciousness, a pulling sensation toward the facility. Northeast building, subterranean level, she confirmed, opening eyes that glowed amber in the darkness. I can feel him, in pain, but alive. Coda gave a signal, and 2 skinwalkers moved silently toward the perimeter fence, carrying specialized equipment to disable the electrical current temporarily. The remainder of the team prepared for coordinated entry, timing their movements to the guard rotation schedule. Yara, Coda said quietly, your role is location and extraction only. Your luminary abilities are too valuable to risk in direct confrontation. She nodded, though inwardly she had no intention of remaining passive if Tassoon or others needed help. The journal had revealed that luminaries possessed unique defensive capabilities beyond standard skinwalker strengths. Once the fence was neutralized, they moved swiftly across open ground, using enhanced speed to minimize exposure. At the Northeast building's service entrance, Coda's hacking device bypassed the electronic lock with surprising ease. Their security systems aren't designed for skinwalker infiltration, he explained at Yara's questioning look. They expect direct attacks, not surgical extraction. Inside, sterile corridors stretched in multiple directions, the air heavy with antiseptic scents that partially masked but couldn't eliminate the smell of fear, blood, and the distinctive musk of captive skinwalkers. Yara closed her eyes again, focusing on Tassoon's presence. Down, she whispered. 2 levels below us. They located a service stairwell, descending silently past a level filled with laboratories where human technicians worked diligently despite the late hour. The sight of examination tables with reinforced restraints sent shivers down Yara's spine. The lowest level required additional security clearance, but Coda's device again granted access. The corridor beyond housed a series of specialized cells with observation windows and heavy doors. Luna, one team member whispered, pointing to a cell where the platinum-haired woman lay on a medical table, monitoring equipment recording her vitals. She appeared sedated but intact. 2 cells farther, they found Tassoon. Unlike Luna, he showed signs of brutal interrogation, bruises and lacerations marking his bare torso, silver-infused restraints binding him to a reinforced chair. Despite his injuries, his posture remained defiant, his eyes alert. Those eyes widened at the sight of Yara through the observation window. Coda signaled the team to split, half for Luna, half for Tassoon, with Yara accompanying the latter group. Security override in 3, he counted down, his device interfacing with the cell control panel. 2, 1. The locks disengaged with a soft click. 2 skinwalkers entered first, checking for hidden security measures, then motioned the others inside. Cutting it close, aren't you? Tassoon remarked dryly as Coda began working on his restraints. Rescuing ungrateful alphas wasn't in the training manual, Coda replied with equal dryness, though relief showed in his eyes. Yara approached cautiously, shocked by Tassin's condition up close. Beneath the visible injuries, his skin had an unhealthy pallor, veins darkened around silver contact points. You came, Tassoon said softly, his attention focusing on her despite his pain. And you've mastered the shift already. Not completely, she demurred. but enough to help. The silver restraints required specialized tools to remove without causing further damage to Tassin's skin. As Coda worked, Yara placed her hand over Tassin's, offering what comfort she could. Unexpectedly, energy flowed between them, warm and healing, flowing from her into him. The blackened veins around his wrists began to fade, color returning to his face. "Luminary healing," Tassun whispered, awe in his voice. "The rarest gift." The moment shattered as alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red emergency. Lights bathed the corridor outside in crimson. "Perimeter breach detected," an automated voice announced over speakers. "Security protocols activated. All personnel implement containment procedures immediately." "That's not us," Coda stated, working faster on the restraints. "Someone else is attacking the facility." The final restraint fell away, and Tassun stood unsteadily, accepting a spare tactical uniform from one of the team members. "Avant," he guessed, dressing quickly. He wouldn't risk leaving me alive to challenge his claim, especially after open betrayal. Reports flooded their comm system. The extraction team for Luna had succeeded, but combat had erupted at multiple points throughout the facility, as a third faction had indeed arrived, attacking both hunters and rescuers indiscriminately. "Confirm. Visual on Avant," came a voice through the comm. "He's leading a group toward your position, Alpha." Tassun tested his limbs, his movements growing stronger as Yara's healing energy continued working through his system. "We need to move," Coda urged. "The extraction point will be compromised soon." They exited the cell into chaos. Emergency protocols had unlocked several containment areas, releasing other supernatural beings the facility had been studying. Not all were skinwalkers, Yara realized with shock, glimpsing entities with characteristics she couldn't identify hurrying through distant corridors. "The Hunter Network captures any non-human entities they consider valuable research subjects," Tassin explained, noting her surprise. "We're just one category in their collection." Their escape route led through a service area now blocked by armed hunters engaged in combat with what appeared to be Avant's faction, skinwalkers more fully transformed than their own team, sacrificing tactical equipment for raw animal power. "Alternative route," Coda decided, consulting a digital map. "Through the labs." The research level was in disarray, staff evacuating, security forces mobilizing. They moved quickly through abandoned laboratories filled with disturbing equipment and specimens preserved in solution. In one room, Yara stopped short, confronted by a wall of genetic sequencing data, and at its center, a familiar DNA profile, labeled Subject M, Luminary Prime. My grandmother, she realized, recognizing the name coding. They had her DNA all along. Likely from when she left the pack, Tassun confirmed grimly. Which means they've been developing anti-luminary weapons for decades. A movement in the doorway drew their attention. Mason stood there, tactical gear splattered with blood, expression grim. I hoped you wouldn't come, he told Yara, weapon raised but not yet aimed directly at her. Your grandmother wanted you free of all this. My grandmother wanted me to choose my own path, Yara countered, positioning herself subtly between Mason and Tassin. Something you never intended to allow. Because there's only one safe choice for someone like you, Mason insisted. Do you think I enjoyed watching over you all these years? Becoming your friend while waiting for signs that would mark you for execution? I protected you by suppressing those signs, by manipulating your environment to keep your heritage dormant. Understanding dawned like ice water in Yara's veins. The allergies you always reminded me to medicate for. The pills you would bring me. Compounds that suppressed skinwalker traits, Mason confirmed. I bought you years of normal human life, Yara. More than most get. While using her professionally to expose other skinwalkers, Tassun added coldly. Her exhibition was bait for our kind. Mason didn't deny it. A necessary compromise to maintain my cover. The Hunter organization would have replaced me with someone less invested in her welfare. His gaze locked with Yara's, genuine emotion breaking through his professional demeanor. I kept you alive when protocol demanded otherwise, because Misu asked me to watch over you with her dying breath. You knew my grandmother that well? Yara asked, skepticism evident. Pain flashed across Mason's features. We were to be married before she discovered what I really was. She ran, not just from hunters, but from me specifically. Yet in the end, when cancer was taking her, she contacted me, asked me to protect you from both sides of this war. The revelation staggered Yara, contexts shifting like kaleidoscope pieces falling into new patterns. The grandmother she'd known, strong, independent, fiercely protective, had navigated complexities Yara was only beginning to comprehend. An explosion rocked the building, ending the momentary standoff. Avant is using explosives to flush everyone out, Coda warned. This entire wing will collapse soon. Mason lowered his weapon slightly. Northeast emergency stairwell. Security is focused on the main exits. You might make it out. Why help us? Tasun demanded suspiciously. I'm not helping you, Mason clarified, focus still on Yara. My assignment was always to protect Misu's granddaughter. That hasn't changed. Another explosion, closer this time, sent ceiling tiles crashing down around them. Go, Mason urged. I'll give you 30 seconds before raising the alarm in this sector. Coda was already moving toward the indicated exit, but Tasun hesitated, studying Mason with narrowed eyes. This doesn't end here, the Alpha warned. No, Mason agreed solemnly. It never does. As they ran toward the stairwell, Yara glanced back to see Mason accessing a computer terminal, downloading files before the facility's destruction claimed them. The northeast stairwell was indeed minimally guarded, allowing their group to ascend quickly. The upper level was in chaos. Hunter security forces battling Avant's skinwalkers while trying to secure or destroy sensitive materials. Through the melee, they spotted Luna being escorted by the other half of their rescue team toward an emergency exit. The rendezvous point will be hot, Coda warned as they reached ground level. Avant anticipated our extraction plan. Then, we make a new one, Tasun decided, his strength visibly returning minute by minute. Yara, can you still sense the pack members outside? She nodded, closing her eyes briefly to extend her awareness. Northeast perimeter. 6. No. 7 of ours, holding position in the tree line. Tell them to create a diversion at the south. Gate, Tasun instructed. We'll exit through the loading dock and circle around to extract. Yara had never attempted to project thoughts to other skinwalkers, but drawing on instinct and techniques described in her grandmother's journal, she focused on the pack bond, visualizing the instructions flowing outward. Done, she confirmed, surprised at how naturally the ability had manifested. They reached the loading dock just as their diversion began, howls and scattered gunfire drawing attention to the facility's southern perimeter. Using the distraction, they slipped out into the night, Tasun now moving with increased confidence, his innate leadership reasserting itself. Their escape route took them through dense forest, moving faster than human pursuers could match. Within an hour, they reached the secondary extraction point, a hunting cabin miles from the facility, stocked with emergency supplies and communication equipment. Luna was already there with her team, recovered from sedation and furious. Avant has declared himself Alpha, she reported. He's telling the pack that you died in Hunter custody. Convenient narrative, Tasun observed grimly, accepting medical attention for his remaining wounds. With me dead and the circlet missing, he can claim emergency powers. What about Mason? Yara asked, the revelations about her grandmother's past still reverberating through her thoughts. Your handler survived, Luna confirmed with a hint of disdain. Last seen evacuating with other Hunter command personnel. Silence fell as the implications of the night's events settled over the group. Their alpha rescued but wounded, their territory lost, their pack fractured, and hunters now possessing unprecedented information about luminary biology through Yara's presence. "We need to regroup," Coda suggested after field medical treatment had been administered to the injured. "The secondary safe house should be secure." "No," Tasun decided, his voice regaining its authoritative resonance. "Avant will expect that. We move to the ancestral grounds." Surprised murmurs circulated among the skinwalkers. Luna's eyebrows rose sharply. "The old territories? They've been abandoned for decades," she objected, "and therefore overlooked," Tasun countered. "The land still belongs to the Pack Trust, but no one has lived there since modernization drove us into cities. It's the last place Avant will look for us." He turned to Yara, who had been quietly processing everything. "The ancestral grounds are where luminaries first manifested, where the balance between human and wolf was perfected. If anywhere can help you fully master your abilities, it's there." "You're talking about the Spirit Valley," Coda realized. "The original Pack homeland." Tasun nodded. "We leave at dawn. Select only the most trusted for this journey. The rest should scatter, maintaining communication blackout until summoned." As the others prepared for the journey ahead, Tasun drew Yara aside to a private corner of the cabin. "Thank you," he said simply. "Your healing ability saved more than my life tonight. It saved the rightful alpha lineage. I still don't understand half of what I can apparently do," Yara admitted, "or why it matters so much to everyone else." Tasun's expression grew solemn. "Luminaries aren't just rare, Yara. They're pivotal to our future. Our kind is dying out, bloodlines weakening with each generation. Only luminaries can strengthen those bloodlines, prevent the degradation that leads to loss of control or inability to shift at all." He hesitated before continuing. "That's why Avant wanted you, not just for power, but for breeding. A luminary's offspring are guaranteed to carry the shifting gene, regardless of the other parent." The implications settled heavily on Yara's shoulders. "So I'm valuable as what? A broodmare for the next generation?" "To traditionalists like Avant, yes," Tasun acknowledged frankly. "To me and those who share my vision, you represent something far more important. Proof that our kind can evolve, can master both aspects of our nature without losing either." He moved closer, his voice dropping to ensure privacy. "Your grandmother left because the pack of her time couldn't see beyond old ways. I've spent my life trying to build a different future, one where skinwalkers can integrate their dual natures and live in the modern world without hiding or apologizing for what they are." Yara studied him, sensing no deception in his words or manner. "And where do I fit in this vision of yours?" "Wherever you choose," Tasun replied simply. "That's the point of everything I've fought for. That each of us, regardless of bloodline or ability, has the right to determine our own path." Something shifted between them in that moment. Respect deepening, connection strengthening beyond the pack bond or the politics surrounding them. "Get some rest," Tasun advised gently. "The journey ahead will test all of us." Dawn found them moving northward in a small convoy of nondescript vehicles, heading deep into the wilderness areas of the Adirondack Mountains. Cell service disappeared, then paved roads, until finally they continued on foot, following ancient trails known only to Pack memory. The ancestral territory revealed itself gradually. A hidden valley nestled between towering peaks, protected by natural barriers that had kept human encroachment minimal. As they descended into the valley, Yara felt a strange resonance, the pendant at her throat warming, her senses heightening beyond even their enhanced state. "Can you feel it?" Tasun asked, noticing her reaction. "The land remembers us," she murmured, surprised by words that came from somewhere beyond conscious thought. At the valley's center stood ruins of what had once been a settlement. Stone foundations, ceremonial circles, and at its heart, a spring that bubbled from beneath a formation of rocks arranged in the shape of a howling wolf. The Alpha Spring, Tassin explained. Sacred water that has nourished our kind since the first transformation. Their group established a temporary camp among the ruins, using minimal technology to avoid detection. As night fell, Tassin called them to gather around. A fire built in the ancient central pit. "Tonight, we reclaim our heritage," he announced, his voice carrying authority that seemed amplified by the sacred space. "For too long, we've hidden in plain sight, denying essential aspects of ourselves to conform to human expectations. Avant's betrayal forces us to remember who we truly are." He turned to Luna. "What news from our allies?" "Scattered but surviving," she reported. "Avant has consolidated control of Ravenwolf Industries and the urban territories. He's purged suspected loyalists from key positions and installed his own people. The hunters maintain the appearance of conflict while secretly supporting his regime." "And the circlet?" Tassoon asked. "Secure with Sora at the tertiary location," Coda confirmed. "Avant has declared the theft a tragedy, claiming hunters stole it during the mansion raid." Tassoon absorbed this information, his expression calculating. He can't maintain legitimacy without the circlet. Traditional law requires it for the ascension ceremony. "Which gives us time," Luna suggested hopefully. "Less than you think," came a new voice from beyond the firelight. Mason stepped into the circle, hands raised to show he was unarmed. Behind him, 2 hunter vehicles were parked at the valley's edge. How they had approached undetected was concerning. Skinwalkers leapt to defensive positions, partially transforming in response to the perceived threat. Tassoon remained seated, though his posture tensed. "Bold of you to come alone into the heart of our territory," the Alpha observed. "Not alone," Mason corrected, gesturing toward the vehicles. "But not as enemies either. Not today." From the lead vehicle emerged a distinguished man in a tailored suit that contradicted their wilderness surroundings. The Hunter Organization's director, judging by the deference Mason showed him. "Alpha Ravenwolf," the director greeted Tassin, formally. "Circumstances have created unusual bedfellows, it seems." "Explain," Tassin demanded, not returning the greeting. "Avant has overplayed his hand," the director replied, remaining at a respectful distance from the gathered skinwalkers. "Our arrangement was for controlled research access to skinwalker biology, not the wholesale genetic exploitation program he's implemented since taking control." "The betrayal of a betrayer hardly surprises me," Tassoon remarked coldly. "It should concern you," the director countered, "because he's not working alone anymore. The pharmaceutical conglomerate backing him has connections to military contractors specializing in enhanced soldier programs." Yara felt cold dread forming in her stomach. "They want to weaponize skinwalker abilities." The director nodded, his gaze assessing her with professional interest. "Precisely, Ms. Delacroix. Imagine special forces with the strength, speed, and senses of apex predators, deployed to battlefields worldwide." "It would be genocide for our kind," Luna stated, flatly. "Once they've extracted what they need from our genetics, we become obsolete, a threat to be eliminated. Hence this unexpected visit," the director acknowledged. "Our organization's charter is to contain supernatural threats, not create new ones. Avant's vision violates that principle." Tassoon's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "You expect us to believe hunters have suddenly developed ethics?" "We expect you to recognize mutual interest," Mason interjected. "Avant's plan threatens both our organization's survival. Neither of us can defeat him independently. He has your corporate resources and pack structure, plus military backing we can't match." He stepped forward, offering a tablet to Tassin. "This contains everything we've gathered on his operation: security details, research protocols, names of his military partners. Most importantly, it shows when and where the official ascension ceremony will take place. Without the circlet, he can't complete a legitimate ceremony," Coda pointed out. He's created a replica, the director revealed. Convincing enough to fool those who've never seen the original up close. The ceremony is scheduled for the next full moon, 3 days from now. The implications settled heavily over the gathered skinwalkers. The legitimacy of a false ceremony would be questionable to traditionalists. But with enough political leverage and the absence of challengers, Avant could solidify his position. Why come to us with this information? Tassoon questioned, still skeptical of the hunter's sudden alliance offer. Because we want Avant stopped before he delivers skinwalker DNA to military researchers, the director stated plainly. And because only a luminary can definitively expose a false circlet during the ascension ritual. All eyes turned to Yara, whose role in this conflict grew more pivotal with each revelation. The alpha circlet resonates with luminary blood, Mason explained, addressing her directly. It's why traditional ceremonies require a luminary witness. The stones react visibly to your presence, something a replica cannot reproduce, no matter how perfect the craftsmanship. You're proposing we walk into Avant's ceremony and publicly challenge him, Yara realized, with hunters as allies. Temporary allies, the director corrected. Cultural differences aside, neither of us wants weaponized skinwalkers in military hands. Tassoon rose, his authority fully restored by healing and the sacred ground beneath his feet. We will consider your information, but not your presence. Leave the valley by moonrise. The director accepted this with a diplomatic nod. Mason will remain as liaison, if you permit it. He has personal investment in this situation. After the director departed, tension remained high among the pack. Mason kept a respectful distance, observing but not intruding, as Tassoon convened his inner circle, Luna, Coda, the most experienced warriors, and now Yara. We can't trust hunters, Luna stated definitively. This is certainly a trap. Perhaps, Tassoon acknowledged, but the information about the ceremony rings true. Avant would need to legitimize his position quickly. Coda studied the tablets. Contents. These security protocols are accurate, based on what we know of the mansion defenses. If they wanted to mislead us, they could have been more subtle. Yara remained quiet, processing the complex intersection of loyalties and betrayals surrounding her. Her gaze drifted to Mason, who stood apart from both groups, neither fully hunter nor ally. What do you think? Tassoon asked her, recognizing her contemplation. I think Mason isn't telling us everything, she replied carefully. But I also think the threat is real. My grandmother trusted him with my safety, despite knowing what he was. That means something. Tassoon considered this, then made his decision. We will verify the information independently, then develop our response. Luna, contact our remaining informants in Werewolf Industries. Coda, assess tactical approaches based on both hunter intelligence and our own resources. To Yara, he added more softly, you should continue your training. If we confront Avant, your luminary abilities will be crucial. As the group dispersed, Yara approached Mason, who had maintained his isolation at the edge of the camp. My grandmother's journal mentions a hunter she called M, she began, without preamble. She wrote that he showed her mercy when others would have shown only judgment. Mason's composed facade cracked slightly. She never quite understood. It wasn't mercy. It was love. Tell me the truth, Yara demanded. All of it. About her. About you. About why you watched over me all these years. Mason glanced toward the darkening sky, measuring his words carefully. I was assigned to terminate your grandmother when her luminary nature was confirmed. Instead, I fell in love with her spirit, her fierce independence, her refusal to be defined by either world. He met Yara's gaze directly. We had 2 years together before she discovered what I really was. The Hunter organization doesn't permit relationships with targets. It was treason by our standards. When she learned the truth during her pregnancy, with your mother she ran. Yet you continued to protect her from afar, Yara noted. I redirected Hunter resources away from her trail, Mason confirmed. Fabricated reports, tampered with evidence. For 30 years, I lived a double life. Trusted Hunter agent by day, guardian of Misu's secret by night. His expression softened, with memory. When cancer found her, she contacted me through channels we'd established decades earlier. Asked me to watch over you, knowing your luminary potential might eventually manifest. She feared both Hunter elimination and Avant's experiments. So you became my assistant, fed me suppression drugs disguised as medications, and waited for what? The right moment to recruit me? Kill me? Save me? Yara challenged. I waited for you to have the life she wanted for you, Mason answered, simply. A normal human existence, free from the burden of dual nature, until Tasun accelerated everything with his search for Misu's heir, forcing Avant's hand and consequently mine. The raw honesty in his voice resonated with something Yara had read in her grandmother's final journal entries. The complex love for a man who stood between worlds, trusted by neither. If we confront Avant, she asked, where will your loyalty lie? Where it has always been, Mason replied. With Misu's bloodline, with you. The following days passed in intensive preparation. Yara trained relentlessly with Sora, who arrived bringing the true Alpha Circlet. Under the Elder's guidance, Yara perfected her transformation control, practicing the rapid shifts that would be necessary during confrontation. More challenging were the luminary-specific abilities, healing, pack sensing, and what Sora called truth sight, the ability to see through supernatural deceptions. The night before the full moon, Tasun found Yara meditating beside the Alpha Spring, her hand trailing in its crystalline waters. Tomorrow will change everything, he observed, joining her at the water's edge. Whatever the outcome. Yara nodded, feeling the weight of expectations from both sides of her heritage. I keep thinking about choices. My grandmother's choice to leave, your choice to seek me out, Mason's choice to protect me, my choice now to embrace this life. Choices define us more than bloodlines, Tasun agreed. That's what separates those like Avant, who believe in predetermined destinies, from those who believe we forge our own paths. And what path do you see beyond tomorrow? Yara asked. Tasun's gaze turned contemplative. If we succeed, we rebuild. Not just the pack structure, but its purpose. Integration rather than isolation. Using our gifts to protect rather than dominate. And if we fail, then our kind faces extinction, either quick death at Hunter's hands or slow degradation into military assets. He looked directly at her. But we won't fail, not with a luminary fighting alongside us. The connection between them deepened in that moment, respect evolving into something warmer, more personal. Tasun hesitantly extended his hand, palm up, a gesture of both question and offering. Yara considered all that had changed in her life, the gallery career now in shambles, the human identity compromised, the supernatural heritage awakened. Yet amidst the chaos, she'd found a truth about herself that had always eluded her, the missing piece that explained her lifelong sense of difference. She placed her hand in his, accepting not just the gesture but the future it represented. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said quietly, I've found my pack. Amber sunset painted the Manhattan skyline as Yara adjusted the formal attire chosen for Avant's ascension ceremony, a designer gown in midnight blue that concealed specialized tactical gear beneath its flowing lines. The pendant at her throat and a small silver hairpin were her only visible adornments, though both contained hidden weapons designed by Koda's engineering team. The circlet is secure, she confirmed, touching her communication earpiece disguised as an elegant earring. Affirmative, Sora's voice replied. Team 2 has it positioned for the reveal. Tasun is in place with Team 1. The Ascension ceremony would take place at Ravenwolf Tower, the corporate headquarters Tassin had built, but Avant now controlled. Security was unprecedented, with both skinwalker guards loyal to Avant and hunter personnel posing as private security. Approaching primary entrance, Yara murmured, exiting the luxury car that had delivered her to the red-carpeted entrance. Mason's credentials are working so far. The hunter had provided Yara with an unassailable cover identity, special consultant to a pharmaceutical conglomerate interested in partnership with Werewolf Industries. It was plausible enough to grant entry without raising immediate alarms, particularly with supporting documentation bearing hunter intelligence signatures. The lobby of Werewolf Tower gleamed with opulence. Marble floors, living walls of rare plants, and discreet security features that Yara's enhanced senses detected despite their camouflage. Skinwalker guards monitored the flow of elite guests, arriving for what had been publicly advertised as a corporate leadership transition ceremony. "Invitation, ma'am?" requested a security officer, whose subtle scent marked him as one of Avant's pack. "Alexandra Prentice, Helix Pharmaceuticals," Yara replied smoothly, offering the credentials Mason had prepared. "I believe Chairman Werewolf is expecting our representation." The guard scanned her credentials, then nodded respectfully. 57th floor, northwest elevators only. The ceremony begins at moonrise. As Yara navigated through the gathered elite, corporate leaders, politicians, influential figures from various industries, she noted how few showed any awareness of the true nature of the evening's event. For most, this was merely a high-profile corporate succession, not the ascension of an alpha who would guide supernatural destiny. "I count 12 confirmed skinwalkers among the security detail," she murmured into her concealed comm. "At least 8 more circulating as guests. Avant's inner circle will be in the ceremonial chamber itself," Coda's voice replied. "Mostly traditionalists who support his vision of isolation and purity." The northwest elevator required additional biometric scanning, which Mason had warned might be problematic. Yara approached confidently nonetheless, presenting her credentials to the elevator attendant, another skinwalker, judging by his subtle reaction to her scent. "Ms. Prentice," he acknowledged with narrowed eyes. "I don't recall Helix Pharmaceuticals on the approved list." "That would be an unfortunate oversight," Yara replied, channeling the corporate authority she'd wielded in her gallery career. "Considering our potential 8-figure investment in Werewolf's biotech division." The attendant hesitated, then swiped his security card. "I'll need to verify with protocol." "By all means," Yara agreed pleasantly. "Though I'm certain Chairman Werewolf would prefer not to keep potential investors waiting on his special night." The calculated name drop worked. The attendant ushered her into the elevator, rather than risk offending a valuable connection. As the doors closed, Yara released a measured breath. "Elevator secured," she confirmed, ascending to ceremonial level. The 57th floor had been transformed from corporate offices into a space that evoked ancient ritual sites. The central atrium opened to the sky through retractable ceiling panels, allowing moonlight to fill the space when fully exposed. Arranged in concentric circles, guests mingled among display cases containing Werewolf family artifacts, most genuine, some cleverly fabricated to enhance the corporate mythology Avant was constructing. Yara circulated carefully, maintaining her cover while scanning for teammates and threats. Luna was already positioned as catering staff, while Coda had infiltrated the technical team managing the ceremony's elaborate lighting effects. Tassoon remained outside the building with the strike team, awaiting the critical moment for his entrance. "Target spotted," Luna's voice murmured through the comm. "Northwest quadrant, surrounded by his inner circle." Yara casually oriented herself to observe Avant holding court among admirers. Unlike Tassoon's understated power, Avant projected theatrical dominance. His silver-streaked hair swept back dramatically, his custom suit adorned with subtle wolfish emblems, his gestures expansive and commanding. Beside him stood a young woman whose resemblance to Tassin was unmistakable. His sister, Yara realized, though they had never been introduced. According to intelligence, Lyra Ravenwolf had aligned with her uncle after years of resentment toward her brother's leadership style. "The false circlet?" Yara inquired softly. "Display case nearest Avant," Coda replied. "Heavily guarded, elaborate security sensors. The craftsmanship is remarkable. Only a luminary would know the difference." As Yara maneuvered closer, she spotted the replica circlet displayed prominently in a bulletproof case, its silver links and amber stones nearly identical to the original, though to her luminary senses it lacked the subtle, energetic resonance of the true artifact. A subtle vibration from her communication device signaled a schedule update. "Ceremony commencing in 30 minutes, Sora confirmed. "Moonrise calculations verified." The next phase required perfect timing. Yara needed to position herself near the ceremonial platform before Avant's security locked down movement within the atrium. She drifted purposefully toward the area, maintaining her cover by engaging briefly with other corporate representatives. "Excuse me," came a cultured voice at her elbow. "I don't believe we've been introduced." Yara turned to find herself face-to-face with Lyra Ravenwolf, whose cold beauty masked predatory assessment. Unlike her brother's golden eyes, Lyra's were ice blue, a genetic variation that marked her as a different subspecies of skinwalker. "Alexandra Prentice, Helix Pharmaceuticals," Yara responded smoothly, offering her hand. Lyra accepted the handshake, her grip slightly too firm, testing for strength while scenting discreetly. "Curious. I don't recall Helix on our partner list." "We're exploring potential collaborations in adaptive genomics," Yara replied, using terminology from the briefing Mason had provided. "Your uncle's vision for Ravenwolf's biotech division aligns with our research interests." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Indeed. Perhaps you could elaborate on these alignments after the ceremony. My uncle would be interested in your perspective." The thinly veiled suspicion was concerning, but before Lyra could press further, chimes sounded throughout the atrium, signaling guests to take their places for the ceremony. "I look forward to it," Yara responded with professional courtesy, moving away as smoothly as possible. "She's suspicious," she murmured into her calm once clear of Lyra's hearing. "We may need to accelerate the timeline." "Hold position," Tasun's voice instructed for the first time that evening. The ceremony must begin legitimately for the challenge to be recognized by Pack law. The atrium lights dimmed as the ceiling panels began retracting, revealing the night sky above and the full moon rising majestically over the Manhattan skyline. The effect was dramatically staged, with hidden lighting accentuating the lunar glow that spilled into the space. Avant took his position at the ceremonial platform, now dressed in ritual attire that combined corporate authority with pack tradition, a modernized version of ancient ceremonial robes, embellished with silver embroidery depicting wolf motifs. "Honored guests," he began, his voice amplified through discrete sound systems. "Tonight represents not merely a corporate transition, but the evolution of a legacy centuries in the making." As he spoke, skinwalkers positioned themselves strategically throughout the crowd, some openly displaying pack symbols, others maintaining human appearances while moving into security formations. "For generations, the Ravenwolf family has guided industries from the shadows," Avant continued. "Tonight, we emerge into moonlight, embracing our full potential without reservation or compromise." The double meaning in his words would be lost on human guests, but to skinwalkers present, the implication was clear. Avant intended to gradually reveal their true nature to selected human allies, beginning with the corporate and military connections attending this ceremony. Ceremonial attendants, all Avant loyalists, approached the display case containing the false circlet. With practiced movements, they deactivated security measures and removed the artifact with solemn reverence. "The time has come," Avant declared, "for the symbol of leadership to pass to one who will honor tradition while embracing necessary evolution." This was the critical moment in pack law, when a challenge to succession must be issued, if any existed. Yara touched her pendant, the signal to the team that the ceremonial point of no return had arrived. Throughout the atrium, concealed pack members loyal to Tassin moved into position. Luna abandoned her catering disguise, positioning herself near a secondary entrance. Koda's fingers moved across his technical controls, ready to implement specific lighting and security overrides. By ancient right and modern necessity, Avant proclaimed, stretching his hands toward the false circlet. I claim leadership of the Ravenwolf legacy in all its forms. Challenge! Tassun's voice rang out across the atrium as he stepped from a service entrance, flanked by his most loyal warriors. By blood and law, I contest this false ascension. Gasps and murmurs erupted among the guests, humans confused. By the interruption, skinwalkers recognizing the gravity of a formal challenge. Avant's expression twisted momentarily with rage before settling into calculated confidence. My nephew, he acknowledged with theatrical sadness. We thought you lost to us. How convenient that you return precisely at this moment. Not convenience. Duty, Tassin replied, advancing steadily. The pack deserves truth, not deception. Security forces moved to intercept him, but Avant raised a hand to halt them. Let him approach. Pack law demands that challenges be heard. The human guests looked increasingly bewildered by the ceremonial language and ritual confrontation unfolding before them. Some began edging toward exits, sensing the underlying tension. You claim leadership without the true symbol of Alpha. Status, Tassin accused, pointing to the circlet. That is a replica, not the ancient artifact passed through our bloodline. Baseless accusations from one who abandoned his responsibilities. Avant countered smoothly. The circlet's authenticity is verified by our most knowledgeable elders. Then you won't object to the traditional test, Tassun proposed, his gaze shifting to where Yara stood. A luminary's confirmation. Avant's confident facade faltered briefly. Luminaries are extinct. Another consequence of your progressive policies diluting our bloodlines. Not extinct, Yara stated, stepping forward as she removed her pendant, revealing the identical match to the stones in the circlet. Merely hidden. Recognition dawned in Avant's eyes. Misu's granddaughter, of course. He recovered quickly, addressing the confused onlookers. A touching reunion, but irrelevant to tonight's proceedings. Pack law is clear, Tassun insisted. A contested circlet must be verified by luminary blood before ascension can proceed. Trapped by tradition he claimed to uphold, Avant couldn't refuse without undermining his own legitimacy. With feigned graciousness, he gestured Yara forward. Approach then, daughter of Misu's line. Verify what is already known. As Yara moved toward the ceremonial platform, Lyra's gaze tracked her with growing suspicion. The false circlet rested on a ceremonial cushion, its craftsmanship impressive enough to fool ordinary eyes. The verification ritual requires direct contact, Yara stated, drawing on her intensive training with Sora. Avant nodded permission, though tension radiated from his controlled posture. The hunters disguised as security shifted subtly, hands moving closer to concealed weapons. Yara lifted the replica circlet, feeling its deadness in her hands, beautiful but inert, lacking the ancient power that pulsed through the genuine artifact. She closed her eyes, focusing on the connection to her luminary blood. I call upon the witness of moonlight. She recited the ritual words, to reveal truth from falsehood, authentic from counterfeit. She let her luminary energy flow into the circlet, a test that would cause the genuine article to glow with responsive power. The replica remained unchanged, confirming its artifice. This is not the Alpha Circlet, she declared formally. It holds no power, no legacy, no legitimacy. Murmurs crescendoed among the skinwalkers present. Even humans in the audience could sense the ceremonial significance, though they couldn't understand its supernatural dimensions. A subjective assessment from Tassin's obvious ally, Avant dismissed, though sweat beaded at his temples. Where is your proof? Here, announced Sora, emerging from another entrance with the genuine alpha circlet held reverently before her. The contrast was immediately apparent. Even before the elder approached, the true circlet seemed to absorb moonlight and reflect it intensified, the amber stones pulsing with inner fire that responded to the full moon overhead. As Sora brought it closer, Yara's pendant and the circlet's stones began resonating visibly, pulsing, in synchronized rhythm, amber light flowing between them like living energy. The blood recognizes its legacy, Sora proclaimed, as it has for generations. Avant's composure cracked. Security. Contain them, he ordered, abandoning ceremonial pretense. Chaos erupted as Hunter forces and Avant's loyalists moved to obey, while Tassin's infiltrated pack members interceded to protect their alpha and the luminary. Human guests fled toward exits, adding to the confusion. In the center of the storm, Yara reached for the true circlet, her luminary blood calling to the ancient artifact. As her fingers touched the silver links, visions flooded her consciousness. Generations of alphas, ceremonies beneath countless full moons, the first transformation of her ancestors. Now, Tassoon commanded through the comm system. Coda activated, his prepared protocols, plunging the atrium into darkness, except for the natural moonlight streaming through the open ceiling. In that selective illumination, skinwalkers loyal to Tassin began their transformations, controlled strategic shifts that maximized combat effectiveness while terrifying Avant's human allies. Luna led her team in securing exits, preventing Hunter reinforcements from arriving. Mason's voice came through the comm system, confirming that Hunter commanders had ordered their forces to stand down, the alliance holding, at least momentarily. Avant, seeing his support fracturing, made a desperate move. He lunged toward Yara, claws extending, eyes blazing with rage. "If I can't have the circlet, no one will," he snarled, transforming partially as he attacked. Tassoon intercepted his uncle, their bodies colliding in a blur of motion. The two alphas fought with generations of rivalry behind every strike. Avant's experience against Tassoon's prime strength, traditional technique against innovative adaptation. "The ritual," Sora urged Yara, pressing the true circlet into her hands. "Complete it before the moon reaches apex." Understanding the elder's urgency, Yara raised the circlet above her head, channeling her luminary energy as Sora had trained her. The amber stones blazed with internal fire, responding to her bloodline and the moonlight bathing the atrium. "By ancient right and witness truth," she proclaimed, her voice carrying supernatural resonance, "I confirm Tassoon Ravenwolf as rightful alpha, guardian of pack legacy, protector of our future." The circlet flared with blinding light, momentarily, illuminating the entire atrium. In that flash, all combat froze, skinwalkers instinctively responding to the power of a completed ritual. Avant and Tassoon remained locked in combat, the elder skinwalker bleeding from multiple wounds while Tassoon maintained his dominant position. Around them, loyalties crystallized visibly, Avant's supporters backing away as the ritual confirmation stripped away their justifications. "It's over, Uncle," Tassoon stated, not in triumph but with solemn finality. "The pack has witnessed. The moon has confirmed. Your challenge has failed." "You fool," Avant spat, blood staining his ceremonial attire. "You think this changes anything? The humans already know about us. My military contacts have samples, data. The isolation that protected us for centuries is finished." "That isolation was slowly killing us," Tassoon countered. "Each generation weaker, fewer, more unstable. We need controlled integration, not warfare or exploitation." Lyra stepped forward, her cold beauty hardened by calculation. "Brother," she acknowledged Tassoon with reluctant formality, "the ritual confirms your position, but Avant's point remains valid. Our corporate partners now know too much to simply forget this night." They know exactly what we choose to show them, Tasun replied. A ceremonial leadership transition interrupted by corporate espionage. Nothing more. He nodded toward where Mason stood with Hunter commanders, who had implemented damage control protocols, selective sedatives administered to human guests, digital interference with recording devices, prepared cover stories for witnessed phenomena. You made a deal with Hunters, Avant realized, disgust evident in his voice. The very organization dedicated to our extinction. I made an alliance with those who share our interest in balance, Tasun corrected. Just as you made deals with those who would weaponize our nature. Sora approached, her ancient authority respected even by Avant. The Council has witnessed your betrayal, Avant Ravenwolf. By pack law, your fate rests with the Alpha you attempted to usurp. All eyes turned to Tasun, whose decision would set the tone for his reclaimed leadership. Traditional law demanded death for such treachery, but the progressive values he championed suggested a different path. Exile, Tasun pronounced after consideration. From pack, from territory, from corporate holdings. Your genetic signature will be recorded with Hunter archives. Any attempt to establish new pack structures will be monitored and prevented. The sentence was merciful compared to traditional punishment, yet effectively neutralized Avant's threat while demonstrating Tasun's commitment to more evolved governance. And those who followed him? Luna asked, indicating Lyra and other key supporters. Will be given a choice, Tasun decided. Accept my leadership and help rebuild what was damaged, or depart with Avant into exile. Lyra stepped forward, her posture formal but lacking submission. The pack needs unity now, not further division. I recognize your claim, brother, though I reserve the right to challenge your methods through proper council channels. The diplomatic acknowledgement offered a path toward reconciliation without complete surrender, typical of Lyra's strategic mind. Tasun accepted with a nod, understanding the value of critical voices within leadership structures. As Hunter, personnel escorted Avant away and pack members began restoring order to the atrium, Tasun approached Yara, who still held the glowing circlet. The ritual acknowledgement carries weight beyond ceremony, he explained quietly. You've been recognized as pack royalty, a luminary who confirmed Alpha succession. That status grants you rights and responsibilities few have held in generations. I'm still learning what being a luminary means, Yara admitted, studying the ancient artifact in her hands. Let alone pack politics. You'll have time, Tasun assured her. Now that the immediate crisis is resolved, we rebuild both the pack structure and Ravenwolf Industries, redirecting resources toward research that benefits our kind rather than exploits it. Mason approached cautiously, maintaining respectful distance. The Hunter Directorate has approved our containment narrative. Human guests will recall a corporate gala interrupted by industrial espionage, unusual but not supernatural. Digital evidence has been neutralized. And your role going forward? Tasun inquired, neither hostile nor welcoming. Liaison, Mason replied. The director recognizes that cooperation serves both organizations better than conflict. We monitor threats to both communities, share intelligence where appropriate, maintain boundaries where necessary. His gaze shifted to Yara. With your permission, I'd like to continue honoring my promise to your grandmother, not as a handler or protector, but as an advisor during your transition into this world. Yara considered the complex man before her. Hunter, guardian, her grandmother's love, deceptive yet ultimately true to his word. I'd like to hear more stories about her, she decided, the parts of her life I never knew. As the night progressed, order was gradually restored. Human guests departed with manufactured memories, Hunter personnel withdrew to perimeter positions, and pack members secured the building and its secrets. Moonlight continued streaming through the open ceiling as Yara found herself alone on the ceremonial platform, the circlet now safely returned to Sora's keeping. Her pendant glowed softly against her skin, a permanent connection to her newly embraced heritage. Tasun joined her, his leadership responsibilities momentarily delegated to others. "Having second thoughts?" he asked perceptively. "Processing. Many thoughts," Yara corrected. "A week ago, I was a gallery curator worrying about exhibition reviews. Now I'm pack royalty with supernatural abilities, involved in secret societies and ancient rituals." "Too much change too quickly?" he suggested, concern evident. Yara considered this, then shook her head. "Not change. Awakening. Like I've been half asleep my entire life, and now I'm finally fully conscious." She turned toward the full moon visible through the open ceiling, its light illuminating her features. "My grandmother wrote about this feeling, the completeness that comes with accepting both sides of yourself. I understand now why she recorded everything, why she wanted me to have choices she never did. And what choices will you make?" Tasun asked, the question layered with personal and political dimensions. Yara smiled, confidence settling into her posture. To build something new, not human, not wolf, but something evolved beyond both. Integrating strengths without sacrificing either heritage. She extended her hand toward him, an echo of his gesture by the Alpha Spring, now returned with certainty rather than hesitation. "The gallery world will need to find another curator," she decided. "I have a legacy to explore, and a pact to help lead into a new era." Tasun accepted her hand, their fingers intertwining as the moonlight bathed them both. In that moment of connection, something shifted between them. Alliance deepening into partnership, respect evolving into affection. Above Manhattan's glittering skyline, the full moon witnessed their silent pact. Two worlds that had existed in shadow for centuries now stood at the threshold of a new dawn. One where ancient wisdom and modern innovation might finally forge the balanced future Yara's grandmother had once dreamed possible. In her blood, wolf and woman existed in perfect harmony at last. Destiny had found her doorstep, wearing the face of her past and promising a future she could never have imagined, yet somehow had always been meant to embrace.